Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Obviously, we didn't have can't change it. All you can do is learn from it and work our tails off to get our minds in the place that allows our team to play through the identity that we work so hard to create.
A lot of emphasis about defeating the demon that takes place when fatigue takes over, and that's real. And that's something that we've addressed really hard.
Well, before we get into all that, all you people, and you know who I'm talking about, all you people out there who for years screamed for, stomped your feet, had a hissy fit about instant replay in the NFL. I want to say from the bottom of my green and gold heart, thank you. Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well,
I was after the catch, and I hung my head as I'm watching the game, hung my head. And I was resigned to the fact that we were going to lose to a great play made by a great receiver. And I mean, watching it, I thought catch, 1 yard line, inevitable. They're going to score. We're probably not going to go down and score and win. And that would be it. Didn't even think about the idea that McCarthy still had an appeal. And I'm glad that he hadn't won one all season. And I'm glad that, he took the action that he did as a Packer fan. So all I'm saying, Pro, is I want to thank all of you who pushed for the instant replay system to take these kind of decisions away from the humans on the field and put them into the hands of those sitting in a nice, warm conference room in New York City.
Well, I don't have a dog in the fight, but I thought they cheated Aaron Rodgers out of his signature moment, because my thought was it was a catch, but Rodgers still has time to bring him right back down the field and win the football game. And they cheated him out of his moment.
That's all right.
Because of a drama.
Fine with that.
Here's the fun thing about it. Everybody talk about that play. And none of them said what I said.
Of course not.
I disagree with the premise of the call. The premise is you have to go down throughout the action of the catch. Mm-hmm. Here's my premise. He came down. The tumbling of the Green Bay player defending him tripped him up. He's making a football move. That's a first down at half-yard line. So when guys said, well, they got the letter of the law right. No.
Ball hit the ground. Ball hit the ground. Ball hit the ground.
That's not what we're talking about.
But that's part of the keeping the possession all the way through the catch.
They explained. But I'm saying
the ground.
Incomplete.
No,
but bull. He landed.
Those of you watching us on the video feed.
Touch
incomplete.
First down.
Incomplete.
This got it bad. It was a bad call.
National championship night, basketball, recruiting, all that coming up. It's a Monday edition of Sports Talk from downtown Columbia Main Street. Sports Talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. Your final word in sports every night in South Carolina. Your most informed, your most intelligent, and when I'm talking, your most handsome word in sports. Wow. Phil Kornblut along with the professor, Tom Hayes. K-Mac is off tonight, and the state man, Graham Pope, behind the bulletproof glass once again. 800-956-7266 is how you can dial us up. Who's your pick tonight? Oregon, Ohio State, 800-956-7266. Our email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at sportstalksc. The website sportstalksc.com. And on Facebook, like us there at Sports Talk Radio Network. Discuss, of course, the national championship game tonight. I'm going to go with Ohio State. I don't know, just a gut feeling. They've never lost to Oregon. They're 8-0 all-time, Ohio State is, against Oregon. And the way that they handled Alabama, pretty impressive. I got to go with Ohio State. They got, two hot quarterbacks. I'm not picking one quarterback really over the other. I guess if I was going to pick quarterbacks, I'd go with Mariota. But the ability of Ohio State to run the football is going to be key here. Maybe eat up some clock, long drives, keep Oregon's offense on the sideline. Oregon, more of that quick-hitting type of offense. You wonder about them being able to score repeatedly against Ohio State's defense and also keeping Ohio State's potent offense on the sideline with their quick strike offense. I pick Ohio State getting the points, but I'm still picking Ohio State regardless of what the points say.
Mm-hmm. I have two different views of this. From a football standpoint, the way I like football and I like thick guys who hit, I would go Ohio State. But I'm going to go with the mental element here. The coach who has not won a national championship in this playoff, Mark Selfridge, sitting there. Ohio State is the team in my mind that dangerously, could we use the term again, decompress in this game. What I mean by that is this. They played the Big Ten title. Everybody said, well, they don't have the quarterback. Michigan State should steal this one. They beat Michigan State. They got the Big Ten. Oh, here's the big ogre, the SEC. We're going to conquer the SEC. Now here's the little duck sitting here. Mentally, you don't want to decompress. You know it's the national championship game, but maybe the worlds you conquered outweigh the world that's in front of you. Oregon has been in the national championship recently. Cam Newton and Auburn kind of sneaked that one from them with that last-second field goal. And I think destiny lies with the Ducks in this one.
So I'm picking the Duck soup, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Going with the Ducks.
800-956-7266. We'll get to some phone calls here in just a moment. Basketball, South Carolina Clemson coming off opposite results on the weekend. Great win for the Tigers. Boy, they look good against Pittsburgh. They had the offense going. They were making shots, making threes, and, of course, they always bring their defense. Mm-hmm. And that was certainly apparent in Pittsburgh. They just clamped down on the Panthers, were not overwhelmed by the Panthers' physicality, and won a very, very good game. Now, their reward for that is to go to visit number 2 Virginia tomorrow night in Charlottesville. Meantime, will the South Carolina team that played in the pre-SEC part of the schedule please report for the SEC schedule? Because that team has not been in a Gamecock uniform since they got the SEC play. Not a good outing at Ole Miss. Frank Martin sort of at a loss to put his finger on it. Basically, they're just trying to wipe the slate clean and start over again and get back to where they were in their pre-SEC part of the schedule when they were playing with confidence, when they were playing loose and free, playing better defense, making some shots, everything that they didn't really do against Ole Miss. USC women remain number 1 in the women's ranking after their win over Kentucky yesterday in front of 17,000 plus in Columbia. We'll get to recruiting coming up in this hour as well, recap everything that we know that's been going on. A couple of other quick notes, and then we'll get to your phone calls. USC linebacker Kawan Lewis announced today on Twitter he's leaving. He'll transfer to another program. He'll graduate at USC and have 1 year of eligibility. And since he will graduate, he will be eligible to play immediately. Played in 8 games last year, 20 tackles and 1 sack. And here's another case where I'm scratching my head over what happened with this young man. He came out of New Jersey, highly touted, highly recruited, was a contributor in a big way in his first 2 seasons in which he played at South Carolina. I believe he redshirted a year, and then he was a starter for much of last year, I believe.
Inside, yeah.
And then this year, just I don't know what it is. He just fizzled away. I don't know if it was him, if it was relationship with the coaching or the kind of coaching he was getting. But, right now, I just wonder what's happening to the South Carolina football program here in this offseason with 8 decommitments from the recruiting class. This is another player on the defensive side who is transferring out. Deion Green was another. Are these guys just doing a poor job evaluating players? Are they doing a poor job developing some of these players? I just think it's like, what in the heck is going on over there right now?
No, are they running players out because they're making room for other players they're recruiting?
Well, they are bringing in other players, but I mean, you are admitting then that you made mistakes in these guys that you recruited.
As I said, every year, Cohen, you recruit 25 players, 10 to 12 of them not going to pan out. That's if you look at all the recruiting classes, look at them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the name of that deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that is.
Well, the USC roster now, by my count, has 57 scholarship players. After you subtract the departing seniors and others who have left the program to this point, as I knock my drink over, they have 57.
Incomplete. That's incomplete.
State man, would you give me a rag? Thank you. Great. Hurry before my computer goes up in smoke. They've got 57 players, scholarship players left on the roster that I see right now. 15 seniors moving ahead to 2015. This does not include now the number for the incoming freshman class because that remains a fluid situation.
No,
we don't know exactly how many are coming in.
That's enrolled.
8 ended up enrolling. Yeah. No, that doesn't count them. I keep those separate with the incoming class. So I'm talking about guys who've been in the program who have played or who were redshirted last year.
So that means they got to get rid of a few more?
Well, no, they're right now. They have 26 newcomers and 57 returnees. So that's 83. So they're actually under the number.
And they're off that probation, so they can have
they can have 85. Yeah. They're actually where they need to be scholarship-wise by my count. These things get a little bit crazy because I'm including some guys who are walk-ons. Thank you, Steak Man. Wave to everybody watching on the camera. That includes guys who were walk-ons who were awarded scholarships, and sometimes those aren't renewed. They're given to other people, or they're not renewed because they need them for the incoming scholarship guys, whatever the case may be. But that's where we've got them right now. So again, Kawan Lewis I always thought was a really good player, and this leaves me a little bit baffled from their standpoint as to what's going on over there with these. Deion Green I thought was going to be a good player.
Was he a good player because he had the protection of Kelsey Quarles and other linemen who he kept blockers off him, but wasn't as effective when your line didn't play in that well, and he can't disengage from blocks because he didn't have the protection. Some guys can't play if they don't have the protection up front.
Well, that's true, but anyway, there's just some interesting things going on with South Carolina right now. Some of their moves in recruiting right now also kind of leave scratching your head, raising your eyebrows. It's
Quite frankly, I think it's exciting. The other way is boring.
It looks to me like they don't have any direction in what they're doing in their recruiting. They're just, especially when it comes to some of these guys who are offering for their secondary, junior college guys who are waiting to see if they can get in. They look like they're getting
Not
these guys
anything
that
other
the big
than
boys are
SEC
going
teams
after.
do like Mississippi and LSU.
Yeah, just looking back at Kawan Lewis, I mean, in 2013, he started 10 games and made 54 tackles. I mean, it just boggles my mind how you go from a 10-game starter to playing in 7 games.
Who was playing the defensive line then?
I get that,
Okay.
but I mean, you know, you're a year older.
That doesn't mean anything if you don't have that protection.
They also
front.
were going more to a 3-4 this year. You weren't going to have that extra defensive lineman in front of you. They were going to count on the linebackers
but then
more.
That tells you he wasn't ready for that.
But he's a junior. I mean,
that doesn't mean anything.
He should be ready.
No, not really.
Yeah. Well, I think that something is not right when a player like this transfers out of your program. He did not redshirt. He came in 2012 and played right away as a freshman.
Special teams.
True freshman, saw action on special teams. Yeah. So he did not redshirt. All right, to the phones we go. 800-956-7266. Mike and Aiken, good evening. Good to have you with us. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Well, before I get to the Dallas Cry Boys, I like, Tom, the analogy of it's not Duck Dynasty, it's Duck Destiny. That's a good point. But that's not why I called. Nobody wants to hear any whine or complaining from the Dallas Cry Boys today. Cry Boys, because that's what you are. That's called karma. You got a gift last week. You didn't get it this week. But listen, I disagree with you, Phil, completely. I felt gypped as a sports fan that we didn't get to see Aaron the Great go down the field with 3 minutes and a timeout. If Dallas doesn't get the 2-point conversion, all they need is a field goal to win the game. They did nothing to stop this guy the second half. He was on fire. I could see him taking down, getting a touchdown easily, and we having a classic on our hand instead of everybody's talking about this stinking call day instead of it being a classic game, which it should be. And you Dallas fans better be glad he didn't have 2 good legs or he didn't put 45 up on you yesterday. He is the MVP.
Yeah. He's not going to have a good leg come this Sunday either, unfortunately. They say that he's worse off coming out of this game after what he did. You know, I hear you, and that would be wonderful. But you know what? I'm not greedy. I am not greedy. Give me the bird in the hand over the 2 in the bush. Okay?
And the comment that goes with it when you get the bad call in Seattle.
Listen, hey, don't worry about karma. I'll take that this coming Sunday, and we'll see what happens. I can say that
you got 2 chances Sunday, Phil. That's slim to none.
Oh, really? You don't think so?
They're not.
Well, now you talk about karma.
One bad leg.
We're due.
One bad leg, man.
We're due to beat Seattle, and we're due to beat Seattle in Seattle. Okay, you want to talk about
where you
karma.
messed up? You messed up losing to Buffalo.
Oh, absolutely.
You're at home, and then you got a chance.
Yeah.
But with one leg, this defense is so much better than Dallas's.
Yeah.
And Aaron's great, but there's no way he gets it done in Seattle.
Well,
no way.
They're going to try and get Eddie Lacy going, and see if they can take some of the pressure off of Rodgers.
Well, I will say this: it shows you the difference between a quarterback on one leg with a rocket arm and a quarterback that's playing with a bad quad with an arm that's suspect in Peyton Manning. He was drilling some passes which were all arm.
Mm-hmm.
And, not many quarterbacks could do that. I mean, it looked like he was firing laser beams at one point.
Rodgers, that touchdown pass he had to Rodgers, that thing was a clothesline drive. I mean, zip, and on a bad leg, pretty impressive. More calls coming up. Well, I guess I got to watch Twitter 24 hours a day. I refuse to, but I guess I'm not doing my job because thanks to a caller, Mason Harris tweeted out this afternoon, and I didn't see this, and apparently others here did, but didn't tell me. Thank you very much. Mason Harris has also decided not to return to South Carolina, defensive end. He's a senior, was going to be a senior at South Carolina. So he's gone, and that puts him back to 14 in the senior class. 14 players in the senior class, and now 6 on scholarship of the returning players by my count. So Mason Harris. Now, that was one that developed. I think he was a reach to begin with in recruiting and never panned out in terms of size and ability to play defensive end at the SEC level. So again, Spurrier said there would be others to leave, and those are a couple of more to depart. So they've had 8 decommitments from their recruiting class, and they've had how many leave since the end of the season? We've had Harris, we've had Lewis, we've had Green, and who else is left? That's 3. Who else is left that you can think of? Anybody else?
There is a 4th. I can't remember which one.
Think. Oh yeah, Shaq Rowland is 4. He
may have been asked to leave.
Well, he's gone. For whatever reason, he's gone. All right. So anyway, it's
keep looking at Twitter
for a team that 12 months ago was ranked in the top 10. Right now, they appear to be team chaos. To me, be honest with you. But you know what? These things have a way of turning around in a hurry and getting fixed.
I love watching teams in somewhat chaos because that means something is coming out of the other side. It's very exciting to see that.
Well,
really
if they don't find a quarterback, it ain't going to be exciting at all to watch in 2015.
May be on campus right now.
Who is that?
Either one of the 3 that will be up for the job in the spring.
So you would feel confident with Michael Scarnecchia or Lorenzo Nunez or Perry Orth or Connor Mitch, any of those guys?
Well, see, here's my deal. I don't know what any of them can do until they have the bulk of the snaps. When everybody says, well, this guy going to do this, do that. Ohio State is somewhat of an enigma. You're not going to see another team in the history of college football have 3 guys staggered out of there and all of them maintain the way Ohio State has done because they have such a great team around them. But usually a quarterback will emerge depending on how much work they get in the spring and into the summer.
I suggest that they go find a transferring quarterback for a 1-year fix. That would be my suggestion to them because the kid that they've got coming in, McElwain, he could be the savior. He could be their Deshaun Watson type quarterback just based on his high school credentials, and you don't know. But he could be that guy. But he's 2016 before he even gets there, and then you're talking about a freshman. So, I would suggest that if Golson wanted to come or if Braxton Miller wanted to come,
quarterbacks that's already on.
Bro, you just told me it's professional. You got to get the guy in there that can play. So
I said that off there. I didn't say it on there.
No, I'm sharing your private thoughts.
Man, if I want to share something that I said off, I'll do it. Don't you do it?
So I'm just saying, don't play tit for tat with me here. I mean, you want to preserve the feelings of the linebacker, but you don't care of the quarterback, but you don't care about the linebackers.
I'm saying if you think, as some people have said, the best recruiter on that staff is G.A. Mangus, you're telling G.A. Mangus you don't trust what he's done as far as recruiting the quarterback.
Well, I think the evidence is in the pudding. I mean,
there is no evidence.
How much did he play? They knew they had a senior quarterback. So you got to get the next guy ready. But if he's not going to be their guy, they never gave him a chance to get ready.
All the games were contested. They didn't have a chance to put him in.
Back to the phones we go, and it's to Tiger Bryan in Lancaster. Hello, Tiger Bryan. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Mr. Phil, Green Bay Packer fan.
Yes, sir.
I told you I'd call you Monday, didn't I?
You did.
All right. It don't matter, We got one give to us. So Cowboys got one the week before. Y'all got one this week. And I hope y'all get one next week. You know what I mean?
I hope you're right. I'm hoping.
Okay. But you know what? Hey, old Rogers, You got a quarterback now. He might matter. You know, we had a game this year in college that was a one-legged bandit that beat South Carolina. You know.
Mm-hmm. You're right about that. He did, but I'll say this: Artavis Scott had 2 legs, and they were very fast. And Wayne Gallman had 2 legs.
Yeah, we had old Gallman now, too, now. It wasn't just Scott.
I said that. I said you had Gallman running as well with 2 legs.
Well, you know, one of the things I want to talk about is the sportsmanship in college football. Everybody tries to point to when things are wrong in college football with players and that sort of thing. But Phil, let's face it. We've seen in college football back in the day, guys were going right for the leg that was injured. And you know it too. The Oakland Raiders, years ago, they were going right for Rodgers' leg at the beginning of the first snap. So there is some kind of camaraderie because there's so much money going on in football and the Players Association. The guys don't want to see each other, you know, being carted off the field.
What else, Tiger Brian?
Hey, I'll tell you what, I thought it was a pretty good, clean game. Hey, you know, good luck to you, Phil, with your Green Bay Packers, but I just don't think you're going to make it to Seattle, folks.
Who you like tonight? Who you like tonight, Tiger Brian?
I like Oregon. I like Oregon.
Oregon?
Clemson, made the Tigers beat Ohio State last year.
That's right.
In the bowl game.
That's right.
I just think Oregon's going to have too much speed for them, baby.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the phone call. Our poll question, we have a new poll question. It's a flash poll.
Do? Okay.
Yeah, we changed the poll question. And I'll give you the results of the other one in a moment. Our flash poll, which went up at midnight last night, who wins the national title? Oregon getting 75% of the votes over Ohio State. Now, the state player of the year poll question, we ended that at midnight last night. We congratulate Vic Beasley from Clemson. He is the winner, official winner of the Sports Talk Fans Player of the Year award, for which he receives nothing because it's probably against the rules. And we have nothing to give him anyway. 3,182 votes for Vic. That's 51.2%. Pharaoh Cooper with 2,650 votes. That's 6%. Deshaun Watson with 315 votes, or 5%. So Vic can add that to his trophy case. The official state player of the year as voted on by Sports Talk fans across South Carolina. Can't think of any better way to honor a state football player.
No.
All right, back to the phones, 800-956-7266. Quickly to John in Hilton Head. Hey, John, welcome into Sports Talk.
Thank you. Bill, I've called in a time or two. I'm a Tar Heel, UNC graduate, and walked on up there as a freshman. I think I might have mentioned it to you. Played 1 year on the freshman team. I was up at Chapel Hill Saturday for the Louisville game.
Oh, were you?
Say that that game brought back some old Carmichael Auditorium memories back when Dean Smith was coaching in North Carolina. Would get a team in that arena that was better.
Did the officials screw the opponent?
Oh no.
You said it brought back some of that old Carmichael feeling.
No, they turned up the heat in the Dean Dome. No, that was a great. What was it, a 13-2 run to end the game? Was it?
Yeah, and it was really it's about the last 10, 12 minutes was just just chipping away, coming back, and but it brought back some old memories, and I don't think there's going to be many more of them this year, but it was good.
Yeah, that was a good win for the Tar Heels. You know, they've been a little up and down, but look, Duke got beat yesterday at NC State. It's going to be the typical ACC kind of deal with these teams beating up each other. Syracuse right now 3-0 in league play. Be right back. All right, back to your phone calls in a couple of moments. Hang on, going to run through the recruiting information. A lot of stuff to pass along to you. First of all, defensive back Torrey Boyd, Chaffee Junior College, California. He's just one junior college DB waiting to hear from USC about being admitted, hoping to hear today, but no word came today. The coaches are at a clinic at a convention, so that might be one of the reasons why he and Treston Deku didn't hear either. Treston Deku, 6'3", 206. He's a safety from Northwest Mississippi Junior College in South Carolina, is involved with him. They're checking on his transcript. He's from Hammond, Louisiana. He registered as a partial qualifier at Chadron State in Nebraska in 2012. Started 7 games there in 2013. Then he transferred to Nicholls State in the spring of 2014 to be closer to his ailing cancer. But when the NCAA did not grant him a waiver, he moved on to Northwest Mississippi, where he had 38 tackles, 6 picks, and earned All-American honors this season. However, he tells us he had 2 Ds on his transcript from Nicholls, and he knows those credits won't transfer to USC. He has a 2.8 GPA overall, but he says that Grady Brown is very interested in him, and he's checking to see if they just match up academically. If he gets an offer from South Carolina, then things could be in the work for him with the Gamecocks. They're talking about an official visit for January 23rd. He is scheduled to visit Oregon State this weekend, Louisiana Lafayette on the 23rd, and Baylor on the 30th. He'll have 2 years to play 2. And again, Boyd, who I checked with this afternoon, has also not heard anything from the Gamecocks today. Gerald Robinson, who is a cornerback out of Hialeah, Florida, has scheduled an official to USC January 23rd. He was offered last week. His coach told 247 Sports, 24/7 Sports, that South Carolina had offered him last week, and Robinson's going to officially visit Florida Atlantic on January 30th. Offensive lineman Corey Helms, 6'4", 305, Alpharetta, Georgia. Not all that heavily recruited coming out of high school, ended up going to Wake Forest and was a starter from the outset at center. So good, he was named a freshman All-American this past season. New coaching staff, he played guard. Now he's leaving. He wants to go where he thinks he can compete for a conference championship and a spot in the playoffs. One place he's looking at is USC. USC, Texas A&M, and Penn State have all offered him, and he has scheduled officials. He's going to A&M on Sunday, USC the following weekend, Penn State on the 30th, and he may end up taking a couple more official visits. USC showed interest in him in high school, but did not offer, but he does like South Carolina a lot. Defensive end Rasul Clemens of South Aiken decommitted from Virginia yesterday. He had been committed since August. He picked them then over Tennessee and LSU. He said last night he's now hearing from Michigan, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and West Virginia. The Wolverines and Mountaineers showing the strongest interest. He has not said any official visits. He does not have a favorite. Now, the dead period for D1 football coaches ends on Wednesday. So the coaches will be back on the road on Thursday. And this weekend will mark the first major weekend for official visits in January. USC right now has no visits scheduled, while Clemson will have in those committed players who did not enroll early and who have not taken their officials. Defensive end Austin Bryant, defensive end Cleveland Farrell, defensive end LaSamuel Davis, receiver Deion Kane, tight end Garrett Williams, defensive back Tanner Muse, and defensive back Amir Trapp, who is a gray shirt player for them. They'll be joined by 2 major uncommitted targets, defensive back Mark Fields Jr., Cornelius, North Carolina, and athlete Denzel Johnson of AC Flora. Fields, the former USC commitment, now looking at Clemson, Texas, and LSU, scheduled for Texas on the 23rd and LSU on the 30th. Johnson has visited Towson, is scheduled to visit Georgia Southern and NC State the last 2 weekends of the month. Several players on USC's board will be taking visits this weekend. Defensive back Maurice Smitherman to Texas Tech. I mentioned Corey Helms to A&M. Defensive back Antoine Wilder, a commitment to Tennessee State. I mentioned Treston Deku to Oregon State. Damon Arnett, a commitment to Michigan. Defensive end Arden Key, a commitment to LSU. Defensive end Quandeski Whitlow, a commitment to Louisville. I mentioned, maybe I didn't mention, defensive back Torrey Boyd to Georgia State, defensive back Jeremiah Denson to Florida, and offensive lineman Christian Pellage, a commitment to Florida. Some other players around the state taking visits this weekend: linebacker Hassan Belton of Blythewood at Tennessee State, receiver J.J. Arcega-Whiteside of Dorman to Stanford, receiver Tavin Richardson of Burns to Louisville, and offensive lineman Stephen Haralambis of Chapin to Charleston Southern, where he's committed. And Josh Whittle of the Big Spur reported yesterday USC baseball from, what I say? I'm sorry, John Whittle, BigSpur.com, reported USC gets a commitment from left-hander Josh Gregory of Gaffney. He's a junior. All right, now, if you lose us here at the top of the hour for whatever reason, you can continue to hear us via our website, sportstalksc.com. We have our audio feed at the top of the page, our video feed at the bottom of the page. You can watch us do our thing. As boring as that might be, I think televised talk shows are the absolute pits of television. I don't think it can get any worse than televised sports talk shows in particular. I mean, anybody who would watch. But in our case, the video stream is very useful for those of you who can't get us for one reason or another. So I suggest that. And also, of course, a couple of our stations on iHeartRadio, our Myrtle Beach station, WSEA FM. They also have an app, WSEA FM, their app. You can get that. And also up in Greenville, WGVL 1440 AM. I suggest that you hit that up on iHeartRadio.
I would suggest that everybody start watching sports talk shows only because they're expecting a moment, similar to what happened when Jim Everett came across the table at Jim Rome, and they're just expecting, when is that next event when somebody's coming across?
I thought you were going to come across the table at me when I...
Nah, I got this bottle of water. I wanted to throw it at you.
Went public with your private comments. All right, back to the phones we go. And it is Ronnie in North Augusta. Good evening and welcome into Sports Talk. Good to have you with us.
Hey, Phil, Pro, how y'all doing tonight?
Ronnie, we're doing great. Thank you, sir.
Phil, I've been listening to you enough years. I have a lot of confidence in your assessment, usually, of the way you see things. So before I sneak out of town here on this 2-year extended vacation, let me make sure that this is pretty much what you've been saying. I think right now our recruiting class has gone to hell in a handbasket. We're running off a bunch of players that were great. We just didn't spend the time. The coaches didn't work hard enough to develop them. Clemson is going to be in the Final Four the next 2 years. Clemson's recruiting class, but they're bringing in this year. About 85% of them would go straight to the NFL, but the rules prohibit that, so they're going to have to stop by Clemson for a couple years. And South Carolina, I don't think we've got a quarterback that could start for any high school in the state. Now, I want to make sure that this is pretty.
I would say points. I would say before you hit the road, points 3, 4, and 5 are pretty much spot on. Points 1 and 2, I never went. I didn't go there. I didn't say the players that were leaving were great players. I didn't say the players that were leaving were great players. I did say Kawan Lewis was a good player. I don't understand what happened to him. And the other point was, let's see, the first one was about, what was the first thing he said? I can't remember. But the last 3 points, yeah, I think they're in a world of hurt at quarterback. I think Clemson's got a fantastic class coming in. And I think that, yeah, they might be in the Final Four this time next year, teeing it up on a Monday night in the national championship game.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, back we are. Sports Talk on a championship Monday night. Good to have you with us, Phil Kornbluth or Tom Hayes. The empty chair is K-Mac. He'll be back with us tomorrow night. The Steak Man, Graham Pope, over there doing his thing. Lines have opened up, 800-956-7266, the number. Coming up, we're going to hear from Frank Martin and from Brad Brownell looking ahead to their basketball games. Tomorrow night, both teams back in action. The Tigers at 8 o'clock against Virginia on the road. The Gamecocks at home at 9 o'clock against Alabama. Pass on a few other notes from today that we haven't touched on. The USC football team will be recognized at halftime of their home basketball game against Kentucky. Whatever's left of the football team, whoever has not transferred by then will be recognized. It might be only 10 or 15 guys in uniform. I'm just kidding. That game will tip off at noon. Be televised on either ESPN or ESPN2. They'll have the Duck Commander Independence Bowl trophy will be
Forklift out.
well, I was going to say forklifted or brought in on a crane. I don't know how they're going to get it through the ceiling of the arena, but they'll figure out a way. Anyway, they'll be honored on that day. Basketball, Penn State in action. Coastal Carolina off to a terrific start in the Big South. Plays at Campbell. That's 8 o'clock. You can see that on ESPN full court. In South Carolina State at North Carolina A&T tonight. The D2 Southeast Region basketball poll for this week. Lander at number 3 at 13-1. Newberry at number 4 at 13-1. Lincoln Memorial is number 1 at 14-0. South Atlantic Conference player of the week is from Newberry, DeMarcus Smith. He averaged 26 points per game last week, including a career-high 27 points. I got to get over there and watch Newberry. They play an exciting brand of basketball. They are up and down the court, high-flying, high-scoring team. They've had a really nice run here under Coach Davis there at Newberry. The final FCS football ranking, Coastal Carolina is number 5 behind the 4-time champion North Dakota State, then Illinois State, New Hampshire, Eastern Washington, and then Coastal Carolina finishing at number 5 this year, also number 5 in the coaches poll. Dabo Swinney's won an award, the Grant Taft National Coach of the Year by the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He was presented that award yesterday at an FCA event in conjunction with the American Football Coaches Association convention in Louisville. And second time in 4 years that he has been honored with a National Coach of the Year award. In 2011, he won the Bobby Dodd Award. Okay, Big
He'll
South.
Bring his team up to Louisville next year.
Big South Freshman of the Week, Presbyterian's Deshaun Murray. All right, for his performance. Syracuse has lost star freshman Chris McCullough for the season. Tore his right ACL in a win over Florida State last night. Our buddy over at TigerNet, David Hood, has a story up on his website with all of the salaries of the Clemson coaches for 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the breakdown. Dan Brooks will make $355,000, as will Robbie Caldwell. Tony Elliott will make $400,000. Marion Hobby $415,000. Danny Pierman $355,000. Mike Reed $310,000. Gendred. Brandon Streeter $275,000. And Brent Venables $1,350,000.
Ding, 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 ding.
Of course, they're saving. I guess they bumped some people up. They had money left over from what they were paying Chad Morris.
Mm-hmm.
What was he making? Was he 1.2? Was he 1 point something? So they had some carryover, I guess, from that.
So they had some.
Well, here you go. After paying $4.42 million last season, the school will pay $4.215 million this season. All the assistants have a 2-year contract except Venables, who has a 4-year deal. So they're saving about $200,000 total, but that's chump change when you're talking about the kind of money they're dishing out there. So that is on TigerNet, and I'm going to tweet that out for those of you who might want to pick it up on Twitter. So
now you're going to have the other people paying attention to Twitter 24 hours a day.
Why not? That's where the world is spinning, I guess.
Before we get too long in the program, I wanted to say that I watched the Clemson-Pittsburgh game, and the coaching staff is right. Brad Brunell is right. Things go better when shots start to fall.
Mm-hmm.
You play better defense, that sort of thing. The most valuable player for me for Clemson hit a 2.5 minute, I think, drought in the second half, which allowed Pittsburgh to tie that ball game, but immediately shut Pittsburgh down for 3.5 minutes. And my most valuable player that game is going to sound crazy, but I thought it was Digite. I mean, because
extremely well.
At one point in the second half, I started to look to see if there's any metal on his face. I thought I was looking at Dennis Rodman because every rebound was coming in his hands, especially on the offensive end of the court. So Digite probably, in my mind, played his most effective game I've seen him play at Clemson. And that's one of the reasons they were able to win that game at Pittsburgh. He was outstanding.
Well, I thought the entire team played well. They had a lot of points off their bench. They shot it well, played good defense, did everything that they had to do to win an ACC game on the road. Now, see if they can do it again against Virginia tomorrow night. Back to the phones we go. We'll hear from Brad Brownell coming up shortly, and we'll also hear from Frank Martin, too, a little bit later on. Billy and Florence, good evening, sir. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey, Phil, national championship night. I'm pretty psyched up, even though an ace team from the South's not playing in it. I changed my mind with the pick. First of all, I need Ohio State to win to get a little ching-ching, but I like Urban Meyer's game plan. I just think that, let's face it, Dalvin Cook for Florida State, and good teams force turnovers. Let's not forget that, but Oregon doesn't kick field goals off of turnovers. They score touchdowns, and that was Florida State's dagger when the freshman running back, Dalvin Cook, caught the ball up, and that really put the dagger in it. But I like the Buckeyes tonight. I just think Urban Meyer, I can't pick against him, but I was going to say this, Bill, make a comment and take it off the air. I agree with really what you were saying, and the Gamecock caller, I think he was, of course, saying it sarcastically, as you may know, with your points, but your last two, of course, I think you were, just kind of playing around and so forth. But the fortunate four, I very well could see that. And how can South Carolina fans even be optimistic when Perry Orth and Connor Mitch played against Furman and couldn't even pick up a first down? That would, that's just something. And then you having all these decommitments, and the defense, I'm thinking, will be a tinge better. But I don't see my thing is who's going to be your offense? You got this Christian Owens kid coming in. You lost Bird. You lost Shaq Rowland that played at times, but when he did play, he he was a really nice player. But I think South Carolina could, could fall back, big time. I really do, and I agree with Clemson playing this time next year. They're going to score a lot of points, and I think Brent Venables' defense will be good enough to get teams off the field. That's what people don't understand, is get teams off the field. Get you a pass rush, which they've got a lot of players who can do that. You don't have to have the number one defense in the country. You back that point up several times. Just have a defense that can make some plays and get them off the field. And I'm going to kind of hang up, and I agree with everything you're saying, Phil.
Well, thank you very much. That goes without saying. You don't have to tell me that. I usually believe that most people agree with what I'm saying.
I'm shocked
if
he
you're
agreed
smart.
with you.
You know, in this day and age of college football, it really is more about just outscoring the opponent. Defense, if you're able to put together a good defense and they're able to keep an offense somewhat in check, keep the other team's offenses somewhat in check, that's a bonus. But it really is about outscoring. I was just looking here at Oregon's record this year. Oregon gave up, let's see now, they are in 14 games thus far. They gave up 30 or more points 4 times this year, which, is that considered pretty good, pretty bad? And everything else was under 30 points. They gave up 40 points one time. They outscored California 59-41. Everything else, 3 other times, more than 30, everything else was under that. Ohio State defensively this year allowed 30 or more points just 3 times. In their loss to Virginia Tech, in their win over Michigan State, and then in their win over Alabama. So what I'm getting back to here is in college football, with the kind of offenses that we have today, the way the offenses have the athletes for the most part, especially now, I think the athletes are even better in these in the receiver positions, flankers, wideouts, even tight ends, because more and more players who would have gone and maybe concentrated on just basketball are being lured into playing football because of these 7-on-7 leagues. And they get these young athletes out there and they throw it, they catch it, and they run, and they don't do a lot of blocking. There's not a lot of contact, and they like it. It kind of lures them in when these basketball athletes kind of felt like, I don't want to play football. It's boring. I don't want to have to go through all the rigmarole of getting ready. But you get them in these 7-on-7 leagues, they start to like it, and they kind of buy into it, and then they do the things that they have to do to get ready. My point is, I think you're getting more and more better athletes in these positions. That's one reason why these offenses have taken off. Plus the emergence of the quarterback as a running threat has really put defenses on their heels for the most part, and most defensive coordinators have not yet been able to figure out a way to slow down these tempo spread offenses with a multifaceted quarterback who can run and throw.
Well, the quick, obvious answer is to get quicker players on the field. Auburn has tried that system before, and it has worked with mixed results because those teams that had spread offenses or tried to use a derivative of the spread also had good running games. So they say, okay, Auburn, you're going to put these little 195-pound linebackers in the game. We're going to run it at you. So I think still the most effective teams are, in my mind, is still in Alabama, who can spread you out, or if you want to play quicker players, can run right through you. The big riddle, I think, this year that Oregon was able to solve is the fact that teams like Stanford, who lined up with 3 tight ends and ran right at them, were effective against Oregon. I think Oregon's defense kind of gotten tougher. We saw that in the Florida State game. I think that's why they're here. And I think they learned some things from playing a Florida State and to a lesser extent a few years ago playing the likes of Auburn. So I think that's the key to them getting over the hump. You're right, Phil. Football has turned into basketball. It used to be the best athletes you put on defense.
Yeah, exactly.
But now those guys who playing wide receiver probably were playing corner 15, 20 years ago.
Hey, did you know that Oregon has an assistant coach named Tom Osborne?
Any relation?
No.
Okay.
I don't think he spells it the same way. He spells his name Osborne.
Okay.
I don't think the Nebraska legend has an E on the end of his name. But there is a Tom Osborne coaching at Oregon.
Well, philosophically, everything matches when you play Virginia.
All right, basketball tomorrow night. Clemson hits the road for Virginia. Cavaliers 15-0, 3-0 in the ACC. Tony Bennett's got it going. Clemson gets a big win at Pittsburgh, 9-6, 1-2. Here is Tiger coach Brad Brownell earlier today previewing this matchup in Charlottesville.
Well, philosophically, everything matches when you play Virginia. You know, they grind you on both ends. You know, it's the tough defense and the team that runs the ball in football a lot, and they're just methodical about getting up and down the field on you, and they get a lot of third down conversions, if you will. They don't make very many mistakes. They don't take quick shots. They pass up a decent shot for a good shot. And because of that, they just wear on you, and they're going to be in more close games than a lot of number 2 teams in the country are, but they're going to win most of them because they're used to it. And then defensively, because they take quality shots, they don't get beat in ball over. They have transition balance. You're always playing against them 5-on-5. So it's unbelievably hard to get an easy basket. They only give up a couple easy baskets a game. And so it's really hard to score. They're physically strong at the perimeter. I mean, their guys are – in fact, I saw a stat on one of the TV games that they played that their average height is 6'6", and Kentucky's is 6'5.5". You don't think of that, but you know the guys that they put in the game, their top 7 or 8 guys are all long except for Parantes, and he's 6'2", normal size point guard. But everybody else is 6'6", 6'7". You know, when they put Toby out there, they got a 7-footer. So their guards are strong enough, but they don't really pressure you. But it's really hard to get inside their defense, and so you're always shooting a guarded shot, and then they usually get the rebound because they're big and strong and in good position. What happened in the Pittsburgh game is we were energized by some Roper making threes in the first half, by other guys making threes later, DeMarc making a couple. JB made it by our bench, scoring. Josh making 2 baskets in the first half. City making plays at the end of the game. It excites your whole team because they want to see other guys doing well. They know how hard everybody's working and practicing. And then all of a sudden you just got a little more bounce to you. So maybe you're a little bit more aggressive going to a rebound. You're a little bit more aggressive defensively. So I really think it's as simple as some of those things that I mentioned. You can be a mid-level team in this league, low-level team in this league, lower level, and play pretty doggone good. You can have a game where your team plays really well, and you may not win the game. And I think that's one of the tougher challenges, you know, coaching at this level in these situations is your guys not getting demoralized, and you know, almost the timing of making sure you play well in the games that you need to win. You know, I mean, like there's just so much that I think it's harder than people realize. And you know, it's one thing I think our football team benefits from sometimes. I think they overpower some teams talent wise sometimes where they don't have to play their best and they can still win a game.
All right, the ACC right now, Virginia, Syracuse, they're 3-0. Notre Dame is 3-1, along with NC State. Duke, Louisville, North Carolina is 1-1. Pittsburgh, Clemson, Florida State 1-2. Wake is 1-3. Virginia Tech is 0-2. Georgia Tech and BC 0-3. Be right back. right, back with you on Sports Talk. We'll hear from USC basketball coach Frank Martin coming up in just a couple of moments. Let's get back to our phone calls, and we go to Robert in Myrtle Beach. Robert, welcome into Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
How you guys doing, man?
Man, we're doing great. Thank you.
I think to all the South Carolina football people, relax, be a little bit patient. Ohio State was 6-6 3 years ago. They're 34-3 since. Same thing with the Clemson fans. Great football's on the way back to the state. You know, you got to get knocked down to appreciate standing up. I think Ohio State pounds Oregon. I don't even think the game will be close. Anybody who can manhandle Alabama and Wisconsin gets my vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that the Alabama thing really opened my eyes. I mean, I know that they blew out Wisconsin, and their defense played great against a really good offensive team, and the young quarterback did a heck of a job, but he really showed me something, the way he stood up against Alabama. Now, you know, one thing they have to be concerned about with Oregon, of course, is their great speed. There's always that conversation about the plotters of the big speed merchants of the Pac-12. But Ohio State's never had a problem with that against Oregon. They're 8-0 all time against Oregon, beat them in the Rose Bowl a couple of years ago. So they've seen it. I think they know how to deal with it.
Yeah, I was just I'm glad you pointed that out, because I was going to say that. We heard about that repeatedly as a Buckeye fan. How are you guys going to handle their speed? How are you going to handle their speed? And really, Ohio State just pounded their butt the whole game. Oregon scored like 14 with 5 minutes left to make it respectable. But it was, you know, Ohio State just I'm just, you know, amazed with anybody who can kind of handle Alabama the way they did. That's all.
All right, we'll find out shortly if they ever get the kickoff.
There's allows the pro. Do you handle Alabama? That's why I'm saying, can you scale another mountain? Here's the other key. Well, we'll throw out the Sugar Bowl because they were using ineligible players, but we'll leave it in. But you know, Ohio State was 0-8 before they broke through and beat an SEC team in a bowl game. Now they broke through. Well, who's to say that, okay, Oregon is 0-8 against Ohio State, and now it's time for them to break through?
Well, you know, they got the great quarterback, and he's got a lot of support around him. And, yeah, I don't know. I just going with a hunch here for Ohio State. I don't really have anything solid to hang my hat on. I'm not trying to be some great football analyst here and break it down for you X's and O's wise. I'm just going with what my gut tells me. My gut tells me Ohio State.
Your gut is
right.
Probably as good as anybody else's. I mean,
85.7% of the time.
When you look at a team surrounding a player, and I'm using this in the general sense of not downgrading the people who play the position, but a team that can devalue the quarterback position as they've done. I mean, they've plugged in anybody at quarterback, and they have out missed a beat,
that's amazing.
which means that their team around them is just absolutely tremendous when you can have 3 different signal callers who bring a little bit different playing style to the table. And still your entire team is tremendous.
All right, let's take a look at South Carolina basketball now. The Gamecocks were going gangbusters after a couple of impressive wins. That win over Iowa State. Before that, the win over Oklahoma State. Things were looking great. And, you know, before they played Florida, we said, how are they going to handle all this newfound attention and everybody telling them how good they are and slapping them on the back? Well, laid an egg at home against Florida. Got splattered on the road against Ole Miss. Today, Frank Martin tried to put it all in context.
Obviously, we didn't have a very good week last week, and it is what it is. Can't change it. All you can do is learn from it and work our tails off to get our minds in the place that allows our team to play through the identity that we work so hard to create before the past 7 days. So that's what our whole objective has been here for the last 48 hours. And, you know, and I think our guys are excited. I know I am. And hard week coming up. Alabama playing as well as anybody. So happy for Anthony Grant that his team's playing so well. And then obviously a trip to Auburn right after that. And Bruce, same thing. First year there. Got those guys energized, excited. Playing a confident brand of basketball. So it's our hands are full, but we knew that going into the SEC.
Coach, you had mentioned maybe doing a couple of things differently to sort of shake your team up a little bit. What were those things, and what was the reaction?
You got to, Ron, when you perform as poorly as we did last week, so different than the way we have been performing, you makes you look in the mirror, makes you, everybody, players, coaches, everybody. And you have to take a step back and you got to figure out what's right and what's wrong. And that's what we tried to do on our way back from Ole Miss. I mean, it's not like we got beat by a bad basketball team. We got beat by a very good basketball team. We just didn't play well. And it's not the winning and losing that creates the problem. It was our mindset last week. And so you don't shake people's minds up that you've been through things before by doing outlandish stuff. You do that by communicating. And that's what we've tried to do here. Just, understand where we're at, who we are, and just try to, like I told the team, let's just hit the reset button. We had a bad week. Let's hit the reset button. And it's not the losses. That's part of it. If you're going to freak out every time you lose a game, you're probably not going to last real long in playing, coaching, whatever. It's just, we had a bad week. We just didn't perform well last week.
Frank, Demetrius, and Dwayne were in here earlier, and they mentioned that everybody kind of sat around, coaches included, and expressed their thoughts of, when did that meeting take place, and what did you guys take from it?
Yeah, no, yesterday. We got back in at 10 o'clock at night or whatever from Ole Miss, and it's just one of those days, didn't play well. We allowed a loss. We allowed two bad practices to influence us into a loss. And then we allowed a loss to impact us where we all fought each other rather than help each other. So that made it two losses. The game, the lights go off. It's just one of those deals. It's just, guys making shots for them, off the dribble, falling down, going in, and, we're shooting point blank layups and missing the rim. It's just one of those days. And what we sat around yesterday is we just tried to, articulate to one another. The details of those conversations will remain private unless some of the players want to share that with you. But just communicate with one another so we understand who we are, what we've accomplished, and how to fix our mindset. Because at the end of the day, we still got 17 basketball games. 17. That's more than we've played. So there's a whole lot of basketball to be played for us to be hanging around with our heads down about anything.
Obviously, you and Grant have a good relationship, and you talked about Alabama being energized. What does Alabama bring to the table?
Yeah, they guard you. They don't get out of the way. They don't turn it over. So it allows their defense to always be in the way. They're long. You're talking about Levi Randolph and Cooper being 4-year guys that basically have played starter minutes for 4 years. They're both in the 6'6" range. Ricky Tarrant, who can really, really score. He's a guy who was in their system last year. Yeah, he didn't play games, but he understands what they do. Those red shirts, their adjustment period as players is a little quicker because they've been in the system.
Alabama 12-3, 2-0 in the SEC. Their RPI 27. Gamecocks are 9-5, 0-2. Their RPI is 97. And the Crimson Tide 8-2 in their last 10. They've won each of their last 5. Mick Mixon coming up.
adjusts his face guard with his left hand. He's in the gun with 3 receivers spaced out to his right. Burson to the left. 2nd down and 4. Pump fake Newton, left side. Now he comes back to the right, intercepted. This may be a score. Down the near sideline, 40, across midfield. Chancellor to the 20, the 15, the 10, the 5, high steps into the end zone for the touchdown.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the ball game right
there. You know, I wanted you so much, Mick, so much to have a chance to go to Green Bay this coming weekend. Why could you not beat the Seahawks for me? Why?
Mainly it was all those good football players Seattle had.
Did you hurt any of them? Did you at least damage a few of them for me?
I'm afraid not. Paul Richardson, wide receiver, number 10, torn ACL. He got tangled up with Ben Wickery. Other than that, the Seahawks are good, Corn. I mean, I wish I could give you some hope with Green Bay. Although what an elegant, classy performance put on by Aaron Rodgers in the Dallas game. My golly, I mean, that was one for the ages there. But Seattle's as close to a complete team as there is in football. They kick it, they cover it, they defend. Very great in the back half of their defense. And then on offense, Russell Wilson, I mean, he on 3rd down, Corn, at one time during the game, on 3rd down, he was 8 of 8 for 199 yards and 3 touchdowns.
What do the Panthers take from this season?
Resiliency, character, all that. But, I mean, we were in the division this year that everybody struggled in any other year. Being right around 500 doesn't get you a whole lot except just an early start on your expense reports for the off season. So I think, excuse me, I think the Panthers need to get faster, get a little bit more stock in the return game. I think O-line will be a point of emphasis moving forward. And then the Panthers can always use another edge pass rusher and maybe another thumper at linebacker.
It looked like for most of the game, Mick, that the offense, as far as execution is concerned, it didn't seem like the noise affected them that much, but the defense did. But the noise did not.
Yeah, I agree with you. Probably. I mean, it was the silent count. The silent count has evolved into a nifty little deal that involves a guard and the center and the quarterback all working in some timing and rhythm to get it snapped in an environment where you just cannot hear. That 12th man is legit. It's not a joke. It's not a media creation. It is thunderous with the noise, and then it gets very quiet when Seattle is on offense. These are knowledgeable football fans. It's almost, I've likened it to Williams-Brice Stadium or Death Valley, only in a pro football environment. So the Panthers did get it snapped. It was just what they did with it after they got it snapped that was problematic.
Was this a year of a step forward for Cam Newton?
I think so. Excuse me. It's a little hard to call. You know, his mechanics regressed during the middle part of the season, but Phil, I don't think he drew a breath. I don't think he drew a pain-free breath into his lungs since the preseason. Since he got dinged against New England, he was in one degree of discomfort or another the whole season. Now he'll never. There are no tells. He won't admit that. He won't look at it as an excuse. But I think job one for Cam in his 5th year as a pro is getting healthy.
Yeah, hard to believe year 5 is coming up. You foresee any?
I don't think so, Sean. It's been reported by the Charlotte Observer tonight that Sean McDermott, defensive coordinator, will get an interview with the Jets. And how about Denver firing John Fox and all their coaches? I mean, you go to the Soupy, and then you win a division again and get clipped. I mean, man, it is a crazy business.
It is. It makes you wonder. Did you get a chance to go down to the fish market in Seattle and catch a salmon?
Or throw one?
No. I'm a low tourist trap kind of a guy. I was just stuck pretty close to the hotel, got a couple of workouts in, but it's an interesting town. It's hard to tell the homeless people from the business people out there because they all dress.
During the off season, do you see the Panthers? How aggressive do you see them being in the free agency market coming up?
Kind of like one of those storks, one of those fisher birds, tiptoeing along the riverbank looking for something to eat. I think we're going to step very gingerly to make sure there's no predators lurking. I think the Panthers have some needs. We'll try to fill through the draft. The Panthers will not probably not be the splashy free agent player, but I think there is some money to spend, and I think the Panthers may pick their spots and just be a small player.
Mick, we thank you for being with us all season long. We have thoroughly enjoyed it. Please put us on your calendar for next football season.
You can count on it, man. I enjoy it too, and thanks for all the coverage you give the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Great having you with us. Mick Mixon, the outstanding voice of the Carolina Panthers, fighting through it, man. He's a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was sick as a dog the past couple of weeks. I know all this traveling doesn't help when you're fighting a bad cold like he has been, or maybe even bronchitis, but sounds like he's making some progress. Thanks to the Mick for being with us. Back in a moment. Well, eventually we're going to get down to kickoff of this football game. ESPN's only been out in Arlington for about 15 days, or so it seems. Listen, it's their business. Do what you want.
That's what caused all the quakes there last week.
Yeah.
Well, they had about 6 trimmers.
That's fine. That's fine. You know, this first go-around in the CFP has been fine. It's been fine. You know, it's been exciting. TV ratings have been great, and looks like all the games are going to be well attended in person, so it's all good. But you know as well as I do that the greed in college football and the need of the coaches to have more playoff spots will win the day here sooner than later. This is a 12-year contract for a 14 playoff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to make it 12 years. They're going to tear that contract up.
It's going to make it 4.
Maybe if that long. I mean, the push now from people ESPN wants they're going to get, and with the they're going to sit down, they're going to say, look at these television ratings. Imagine if we had 2 more what if we had quarterfinal round games a whole another weekend, and then semifinals and then a championship game. Let's make these guys play 16 games or 17 games, whatever the case may be.
Why not
we don't what really gets me. Here I go, I'm getting up on my soapbox.
Go ahead.
But, well, I'm reading this stuff, and I'm reading the commissioner of the Big Ten, and he's talking about, these guys are students first. They have to be students first. I don't know how much more we can. And I'm like, you jackass, you're part of the group that makes college basketball players play 9 o'clock tip-offs on the road. Like South Carolina's playing Alabama 9 o'clock tomorrow night. What time will Alabama's basketball team get back to Tuscaloosa and have to go to class the next day? Well, that's my point. They talk out of both sides of their mouth as a collective group, and it just drives me up a wall. So anyway,
they'll probably end up back in Tuscaloosa at 4 a.m. Eastern, which you smile and say, "Oh yeah, but we
3 a.m.
gained an hour. Yeah, we gained an hour." The interesting thing is, I'm going to blame all of this.
They shouldn't play college games on Sunday. If they really cared about the student athlete part, take the games off Sunday and no tip off after 8 o'clock in any time zone. How about that? How about that, Mr. Delaney of the Big Ten and university presidents? If you really want to believe in the student part of student athlete.
Yeah, but you got to start on West Coast time. That's what we're looking at. I'm blaming it all on Monday Night Football, because before we had Monday Night Football, nobody thought of sticking championship games on Monday night or this.
I told you
wouldn't they play on this
years ago
Saturday?
When they started the Thursday night college football package, I told you this is letting the gorilla out of the cage. You'll have college football games almost every night of the week in the years to come. And look what you got. They play on Tuesday. They play on Wednesday. They play on Fridays. They play almost every night of the week except Monday. They'd play on Monday if the NFL didn't dominate Monday. On that cheery note, have yourselves a great night. We'll talk about the championship winner tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.